Hello, I am Françoise Nikolov, a French-Australian clinical psychologist for over 40 years now, and your host for the Conscious Year podcast. Hi, I'm Françoise Nikolov, your host of the Conscious Year podcast, and today we have the great pleasure to welcome Anne Siret. Hello, Anne, and bonjour.
Bonjour, Françoise, and thank you to have me on your podcast. I'm very honored to be a part of this podcast, and thanks a lot.
My pleasure. And so we can speak both languages with Anne because both of us are also French. So we might slip some French words into our chat, but that's fine. We'll give you the translation as well. So today I'm going to give you a few words about Anne because Anne is certainly someone who has done a lot of training, a lot of searching and has gained a lot of experience in the different worlds that she is trained with. So Anne is a bilingual English-French psychodynamic analyst. It's referring to the Jungian approach. And she's also a clinical psychotherapist and counselor. She is also accredited and specialized in EFT, and she's going to explain to us what it is, and Matrix, a Matrix re-imprinting certified advanced practitioner, and EFT Universe, and also with EFT and Mindfulness Center, which is based in UK, in England. She has also specialized in integral and global thinking for self-development using positive energy and psychology. But what's interesting also with Anne has a master in counseling and applied psychotherapy, but you're going to be surprised, she also has 2 masters in engineering. One in France, that she did at the École Polytechnique Féminine in Paris, but also one in Australia at the University of Sydney. So you see that her approach to the things is through the very scientific and very pragmatic mind of an engineer, but at the same time she has the approach of a psychologist and a counselor as well. So she doesn't stop training. She continues to learn, a bit like me. We do that which we have in common. And so she can then apply all what she's learned through the different modalities and the different experiences that she's got to apply that when she works with clients. She's also works as a volunteer in different organizations. And so we have such a pleasure to welcome you on our podcast today, Anne. So my first question will be, because your one of your tools is EFT, so can you define me? Can you help us to understand what is EFT?
Yes, EFT is emotional freedom technique, and in French we say more TLE, or they laugh at me. They laugh at me because I say EFT, and they say no, we say EFT, and I say no, you have to say TLE. This is the French. So this is a funny part for me because I train a lot in French, and as you mentioned, we are both bilingual. And the fact that I migrated in Australia and like you mentioned, I had to pass again a master in engineering and in psychotherapy because I was not recognized. My diploma was not recognized in my degree in Australia. It opened me on different culture and really impact the education, on kids. And we both work with kids and adults. And it was interesting because I went through kind of a little depression due to the language, the barrier of language, and I learned English and not, Australian. So I came to finally EFT because I learned the academic English at the Uni of Sydney. Then, because I am an engineer, I had to do research. I went on internet. Internet, it's really useful. A lot of people say many negative things, but there are very positive things with internet, and it's all the knowledge we could take from the different websites we could find. And that's where I learned finally energy psychology, the different research, because EFT, emotional freedom technique, is a very useful tool, and is a self-help tool, which is a kind of stress release tool, to make simple, like acupressure without needle tool. I will explain a bit more, but just to let you know that this tool is the one who is the most used by everyone as a tool from the energy psychology. And energy psychology, it's a mixture. This is you have a bit of positive psychology inside, but we could say that it's the next generation of psychology, And I will not explain all the psychology here, not to bother your audience. But so this tool uses the meridian point, and it has been invented and created more by an engineer from Stanford, Gary Craig. It's now, more than 30 years ago. Before, it was a psychologist who did a lot of studies with the acupoint. And really the background is coming from, you can imagine, about the Indian and the Chinese, the acupuncture, the different points, the energy. You learn about the prana, the chi, and everything,
Yeah.
And so you just tap on your body a few points, and you mention your I would say, what is bother you, that's annoy you, and to make simple, we could explain a bit more, and then gone all the emotional. I will say thinking, thought about that are released. And it's just because Gary Craig, this engineer of Stanford, thought that we always think that everything is in the mind, which is not totally false, but he wanted to find something quicker, because we know that psychology could be, all the therapies could be a bit long. And he said, no, we could fix that in a quicker manner,
Well, we are in the world of the quick fix at the moment, you have the fast this, the fast food, the fast So I guess it's also going with the trends that we are in this day and age, where things need to be fixed and fixed quickly and fixed for once for all. And so, yes, Gary Craig said that it's like emotional acupuncture. So following the meridians and tapping with your fingers on those points that you might tell us what they are. So the main activity, so if I do understand well, the EFT is to work to allow you to get free of negative thoughts or negative feelings.
You're doing a shift in your cognitive shift. A shift in your cognitive thought. Sorry.
Yeah.
And it's, if I can, I don't know if we have a little bit of time to explain a bit more. It just, you work with the frequency and the vibe and, the different les ondes. That's correct.
The different waves, yes.
Yeah. And that's, we're doing with that too, because like EFT puts you in a kind of state of mind where you use a bit of the alpha, waves.
The alpha waves, yeah.
When you were young, for example, where you are in approximately until 7 years old, you are in two kind of waves who are theta and delta, and where you are like a bit, because it's very low waves, and you are like a bit of a hardware where you integrate all the information, and you have to know we are all energy, and like even how brain is the energy, you will see the energy between two neurons, and the information is going through the synapse, and it's an electrical magnetic information, And all your body is like that. So all your cells have little antennas, are energy. And you heard, even if I mention like the memory of water, we are all water. And the water is you could have energy going through the water, and all this information is going to the baby first, and even when he's in the womb of the mother, and then until 6, 7. And you know that at this point of time, you change your waves and you turn on alpha, beta, and that's where you, for a child, you're beginning to have the critical thinking, and the waves are a bit higher, and the frequency of so when you are young, you could have some trauma, and because it's kind of information, and you are not able to treat the information, meaning your mother is shouting on you, and you are not able to say, oh, she could be tired, to relativize.
But you have a different perspective on the on the reasons why she is screaming or yelling at the time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of trauma, and this trauma has been encapsulated, in your cells, because it's when your mom is talking, is with what you work, it's frequency, the verbs, the power of the sounds,
power of the sounds and language and words.
Exactly. And it's going through your cells, because your cells we are 90 more than people say 99% of water, and it's all this energy is finally, it's a kind of disruption of energy. It's encapsulated in a part of your body, in some cells. So using EFT will release this block. Because when you are an adult, and you didn't know EFT, you are now an adult, and your mom shot on you, and then you married. You are a man, you married, and your wife is shouting on you. You have the flight-fight response in the amygdala in the brain, and when you have this flight-fight response, which like
the survival mode.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so you are not able, what we call our cortex, the forefront, the resource disappear from here and go to your body, because you need to run if you have, for example, a tiger we enter here. And so finally, your wife became the tiger, and you are, you could be even freeze, and finally what you just reproducing what's happened, in your childhood, and the knowledge you learn about, the information you grab, a woman, shouting on you. It makes sense?
Yeah, it's so the information is stored and reactivated every time every time there is the same trigger, like the mom shouting or the teacher shouting, and then comes to the wife shouting or the spouse shouting, that triggers this memory of fight, flight, freeze, which is the amygdala response, which is also the survival mode to respond to any trigger which seems to be dangerous at some stage. Or uncomfortable, I would say, because the emotions, it's more in the uncomfort or the fear of the emotions as well.
Exactly. And that's why Gary found it's like if we work now as an adult, and EFT is for example, you imagine something really scary, like we work on many subjects with EFT. It works on everything. And you scare about something, like the example I just gave you, and and it's important to feel the emotion in your body. You have really to tune in your body, try to disconnect in one way of your brain, You just tune in the emotion, and eventually the physical ailment is going with that, If I don't know, if the butterfly in the stomach, or different vomiting, or any kind of, physical or emotional.
Yeah, the tummy ache.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And at this point of time, you do some tapping on different point, and I will let you know the point, because we'll be interested, if we have time, to do a bit of tapping and what we call a sequence. Of course, the sequence is a bit longer, but we make sure that we don't have to do the biggest one when you want to work on yourself, because of course you can work with a therapist. And so you just, think about that. You talk after, like you said, even the first setup is, even if I feel this fear in my body, and you really tune in your body. And then you say, I totally love and accept myself, And Gary said you have to repeat 3 times, but of course when you use it, you don't do exactly, because after you will have different kind of EFT, because of course, like everything, it has been adapted. But this is the fact. You mentioned, okay, even if I have this fear, I totally love and accept myself.
So that's a big one to say. Is
the setup. That's what we call the setup.
So
and it's important to recognize, because some people, that's why I mentioned psychology positive, but it's not, because then we can use that. But at the beginning, it's really important, because people said, I don't want to say the negative because I will reinforce the negative, because in psychology, in positive psychology, we don't say too much. But no, sorry, you have to recognize. You can't do, like l'autruche, la tête dans le sable.
Well, the ostrich in the. We say that in French is the ostrich puts its head in the sand, so not to see, not to feel. All the 3 monkeys, like not to see, not to feel, not to hear.
Exactly.
It's a bit that's the same thing, is to be in denial of what's going on.
Exactly. You cannot. So it's important to recognize, and doesn't mean you agree, but we all have, this little voice in our head, like. So why not telling them? Why not? Giving them a voice, And so then after these 3 symptoms, then we mention all what we could feel in our body, or the emotional, thought coming.
Or memory? What I mean? So it could be the emotional thought or the emotional memory coming back?
Exactly. And that's when we work, like in therapy, we could work more with what's coming, because that's why we could go straight away to the first trigger, like when you were a child, And but in the first time, it's really EFT. We use that like a relaxing, a stressful, a stress-free tool, and it's calmed down. And when you do this series of the point, I will mention you a bit later, you feel more relaxed, and then you can work on the trigger. That's really the therapy is working like that. But you don't have to work really on the therapy. And because that's where you wanted to have me, I think, too, on your podcast, because we're doing everything for the kids and for the well-being. And the second summit I organized, EFT into the education. We even not looking at the therapy side, like looking, what's happened in the past. We give the teacher and all the parents and all the people who are linked to the education of a child. It's just we give them a tool that could be useful for putting down the level, of stress of physical and emotional, to lower the stress of physical, emotional burden, What I mean? So just on tapping a bit of your face and on the top of your body, it put down the level of your stress.
So it changed the energy in the system.
Exactly.
There is a sort of a shift.
Down.
There is a shift in the way that the brain can operate.
Exactly. So, like, for example, if you are in the classroom, and it's, of course, you can teach a child how to learn, and but if this child is not, stressful,
is in a stress situation.
Yeah. He will not be able, to memorize what you will say.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like we mentioned, the amygdala, as a response, is coming from his home. And the parents were arguing, or even worse, sometimes you have domestic violence, or incest. Look, he's arriving in the school. He's not,
He's not ready to listen to. He's not ready to listen to.
Not.
No, there is the child is overwhelmed with so much emotions that he cannot even understand and process, because he's certainly too young to do that at some level. So the overwhelm, the emotional overwhelm, is often a trick. It's like it puts the brain into a fog zone, and then nothing can come in. The information of the teachers cannot be stored or not even understood, because the child is still processing the emotions of the situation that the child has experienced.
Exactly. And if he's not going back, and when he's like that too, of course, he's in a kind of waves, like you will be more activated, like, really in one way, not the best one to learn. And what we try to do is to put him in a kind of alpha waves, like we all know that, like it's like the Zen one, the Zen attitude.
Yeah, and that's why also lots of schools, well, maybe not enough schools, but are starting their day with some meditation or mindfulness.
Exactly.
And some teachers bring in also the tapping, which will help to put the brain into the right place, so the sequencing or the preparation to be learning gets there.
Yeah, and even in Australia, we have in Queensland Dr. Peter Stapleton at the Bond University, who's doing research, and she set up, and that's where I met Peter, and it's tapping in the classroom, and she introduced that to different teachers. She teach, and she did some research, and I said there is nothing in French, and that's why I wanted to translate, and now I set up a program, EFT en class, even in French, and because we have a lot of French,
practitioners.
Not practitioner, people in the world who speaking French, Canada,
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Part of the world. Yeah. So, and not everyone are bilingual, So, and the first website, EFT en class, I did that because there were no tools at all. Everything were in English, and because you have a lot, even video, different books, songs, everything with EFT for kids, but in English,
Yeah, well, whereas with the Tomatis method, we were all in French.
You have the other problem.
But everything is in English now, yeah.
Yeah, and you see, this is a big deal. So, and that's why sometimes I'm more use of the French word, like we were talking before the podcast about like the encephalogram, the EEG. That's
EEG,
French word.
Yeah.
And we were talking about engineering. To coming back to that, it's really linked, because people say, there is no really link between these two, and I say no at all, because look, I told you we are all energy, and I explained that we are working with physics quantic, neuroscience, epigenetic. It's what I learn, I make some discovery on internet about that. because before we were not able to reach some kind of research, and it was fantastic for me. I discovered, and it makes sense. It made sense. At this time, it was missing something. And the missing point was linking really again the body, the mind, and spirit.
Yeah.
But in a way I could understand it. So because I understand it, it makes sense. I could explain to the kids, I could explain to the parents. Of course, I make short, but I still explain because, like I always remember when I was a child in the, more like you are a teenager, and you are at school and like, for example, you learn math and you say, what we learn in math, no sense. And it's when I did engineering and I did electronic and everything, I say, that's why, because we use math here, and physics and everything.
Yeah.
So when I'm dressing, when I'm dressing the different modality, and I explain, the modality to the kids, I talk about physics quantum, I talk about, epigenetic, of course, in a simple way, depending of their age, but finally, it makes sense for them, and they are more, they have more emphasis to use the tool, and because it's a tool, you can't, because you're using your two finger, you could use the hand, but you can't. I would say you cannot lose the
lose, yeah.
The tool. It's always, with you, and it's very funny. The little kids like that, and during the pandemic, it was very useful because the teacher who has been trained by us, they used to call the parents, and even the parents say, "Oh, we practice what you teach, to the children. It's very good." And it was fantastic during the pandemic. It was very useful, and so I come back to the fact that you have really a link between engineer and psychotherapy. And the kids pick that because they understand we are all energy. And finally, they understand that the information is coming, through electromagnetic, vibration and vibes and waves. And it makes sense. They understand that in their brain, the information is going from to neuron through, the synapse, and it's all electromagnetic. That, everything makes sense.
Yeah.
So at this point of time, they use EFT, and even you don't have to understand. But it's just I'm talking because kids, they're pretty, curious.
And they're pretty open. They don't have any mindsets and also preconceived mindsets
Exactly.
and thoughts
they
and
have
beliefs.
No filters.
Yeah, that we might see in adults. So it's they are open. They are open to the experience, and when they feel that feels good, then they usually ask for it. So
and you're totally right, Françoise, because the trust instinct, especially when they are young, they know what's the best for them.
Yeah. And
important.
I see that so much when I've seen when we used to do Tomatis as a clinical program, I would put the earphones with the music on to the kids. At the beginning, they will be adjusting to it, but sometimes it was like, finally I get what I need, because they had the induction through the bone and the air conduction, and listening to the music through that way was, you could see like a bliss coming to them, and see, wow. And it's just amazing to see those changes in kids, and usually when it's good for them, they feel it, and they want it back, and they want it again. Yeah. So what can you use EFT for? What's the main issues that you can use EFT for, Anne?
Oh, but finally, there's always the question. So You have many things, fears, worries, anxiety. You have phobias.
Phobias, yeah.
Sorry?
The phobias, you can work on phobias as well.
Yeah, phobias. Even, like we have a lot coach, like a sports coach, who using EFT, not only for adults but for kids, because it improves your results. And
so it's used for sports performance, is that it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Every finally all kind of performance, academic and sportive performance, creative one, meaning like if you play music, we're doing in theater for, just to mention about you could be a child or an adult. Honestly, Gary said trust on everything. You can do all the aim and the kid with special needs, like
autism.
Being myself, for example, I'm very interested in that case because being a gift child, myself and my son too, of course we are more sensitive, and it could be very overwhelmed, the sound or people talking about too much music, about everything like that,
Yeah.
And of course the sensitivity,
The sensory processing is can be overwhelming. Yeah.
So it's help a lot, and there is no. You have plenty of research. If you are going, I'm certified, like you mentioned, EFT Universe. I will recommend people to look at EFTuniverse.com, and they will see all the research.
Okay.
Because we have all the research on this website.
Mm-hmm. And so,
sorry?
No, yeah, go on.
Yeah. And for everything, like we mentioned fears, anxiety, but you have alcoholism, addiction, and craving, like Peter Stapleton work a lot on craving, and all this research she was doing, and she reproduced, because EFT Universe is led by Dr. Johnson Church, who is really a well-known researcher in the world, who wrote many books, and with all the research behind, the psychology, energy, and it's really the, America, they're using more like, you will say, the alternative medicine.
Yes.
And they really more in advance than in France, for example, for that. And Australia, I don't know, finally, because it's, what do you think yourself, Françoise? Do you think Australia is really like in America, or for the...
I think Australia, in terms of alternatives, is you can find every therapist in Australia. It's only the medical or the medical people or who are maybe not that open to alternatives like everywhere else. But the results are there. Alternative therapies and especially now the using quantic energy and quantum healing. And what you do with EFT or what we do with Tomatis is also using those new concepts and principles and working on your plasticity and freeing up energy in the system that allows all those alternative therapies, which are maybe ahead of their time. Let's put it that way. It's more ahead of their time. So people who've been learning at university, they are not open yet to that type of modalities because it's not what they are being taught. They've been taught in. So, but bit by bit, more researchers are starting to open themselves to different varieties of modalities to help people and transform their lives. So, I think we are a bit ahead of the time, but that's fine. It will become mainstream at one stage or another. Yeah.
Oh, certainly.
Yeah.
And there is like EFT is really okay. You can find this tool is very helpful for as alternative medicine, and like all the physical pain, you could have low back pain, and because I work with the somatization, so it's very helpful.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And but at we say day-to-day life, like it's very useful. Like you could have some guilt, insomnia, like even constipation, body embarrassment, panic attack, like fears of taking an elevator or the plane. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's really something like, of course, as I mentioned, you have to take a plane, for example. Of course, you will still be afraid all the time you will take the plane. But if you practice EFT, at least you can take the plane. It will, put your level of stress down. Okay?
Okay.
It doesn't mean next time you didn't get rid, at this point of time, you didn't get rid of the trigger. You agree? So you are going to see a psychotherapist or someone who really using very well the tool, and you could find the trigger. But at least you could take a plane and you could work with EFT on your fear and on your level of stress. And it's okay. But if you, I will say, work on yourself then with a practitioner, and you get rid of the trigger, then you take the plane. You don't need EFT because you get rid of the trigger. But the really important point, I would have to say, like take another psychotherapy, is like exposure therapy,
Yeah.
You understand? Okay.
Exposure, yeah.
Yeah. When you have to put the person in the context. But if you don't have the therapist near you, it's a big,
Yeah. Well, taking a plane, it's difficult to be exposed easily to that type of activity.
That's right. If you have the tool, if you have the EFT, you can take. And we have a little video on YouTube, like showing very like a pop star, talking about that,
Yeah.
And I think even I would say Camilla, the wife of Prince Philip, I think she had the fear
Prince
of
Charles.
Yeah, and she was mentioning she using EFT, and many well-known athletic people.
Athletes, yeah. Athletes, yeah.
That too. And it's really, and what I like in EFT, we have no time, but that's why I'm happy to use that, because it's a funny tool. It's easy to use.
Yeah.
Funny for the kids, and very you learn that very quickly. You don't need a master, and it's so quick. And the fact is, why I come back to the fact that I like that, it's because you have everything inside, and meaning you have mindfulness, you have a kind of a bit of yoga, you have the breathing, you have the health coherence, and you have the brain therapy, you have method Coué. I don't know if the people know method Coué.
Maybe not, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the positive affirmation, let's put it that way.
Exactly, in one way. And many tools in one.
Okay. And so are there different forms of EFT, or there is one form of EFT?
So that's a big deal, because the creator is still in one way is still alive, Cary Gray. He put that in the public domain. and at one point everyone, take the product, and then he has to go back because it's a long story, but it's always tricky. And now you have different kind of EFT, and which no more the same name. So that's why you have, I will say, you have in Australia, you have two very well-known psychologists using, and they even, I don't remember the modality, they put a different name where you're using like the humor and...
using, sorry?
L'humour.
The humor, yeah.
Yeah, and so
it's fun.
They adapt, but certainly people don't know EFT, but they could have heard about tapping.
Yeah, so I think, and people associate EFT with tapping as well.
Exactly.
Can it be associated with brain gym, or that's totally different?
Look, brain gym we're using the program EFT en class, and we know Donna. We did a Donna Eden, with David Finch and with her husband, and with very well known for energy psychology, and he's
so in child psychology, who are you talking about?
Sorry,
who are the two people that you are talking about?
Donna Eden.
Donna Hayden,
and,
yeah,
and David Feinstein, and they really they're using finally energy psychology, and brain gene is part of energy psychology.
Okay, so it's all it's at one stage it all come to one thing.
All come back. I use all my workshop, I make them begin with the video, and you could find it in English too, and of Bruce Lipton.
Oh yeah,
Dr. Bruce Lipton.
Yeah, well, it's in English originally, so.
And it's finally it's a kind of resume of the book, one of his book, and
so it's a summary. It's a summary of Bruce Lipton's book,
he summarized his chapter, and he's talking.
So which book is it?
Sorry.
Which Bruce Lipton books are you talking about?
The biology of belief.
Of the biology of belief, yeah.
Yeah. And
it's a very important book, yeah.
Yeah, and he's talking about EFT inside, and he said the quickest way is EFT.
Okay. So
and that's where I went to study EFT.
Okay. And so is there any age where it can be used?
What?
Any age. So can it be used through babies, children?
Okay. I said it's a word I didn't know. Yeah.
Age.
So no. We have assistant maternelle, so we have in the childcare the staff is using EFT with a baby
in childcare.
And you don't tap at this point of time. You just comment do I say?
How do you say?
A little massage on the point.
Okay.
And you don't use all the points. We adapt with the kid. It's totally different. They don't need all the points.
Yeah.
What's more important for them is to finally to say what annoys them, to express themselves,
Yeah.
And then they tap, and we put then positive affirmation, and gone, forget, because kids, they're so quick to jump.
Absolutely, and they jump so easily from one mood to another, for the good and for the worse.
Exactly, and even when they're growing, it's like you need a bit long, tapping. But when they're very young, the mother could tap like a surrogate.
Yeah.
Because of course we are all energy, we are all links. So working on yourself make change around you. Like for example, quite often mother are, they could be stressed or could have some anger, or because the kid is not sleeping. the kid is not sleeping.
Yes.
But first, what we recommend is tap on yourself, release all the stress about that, and you will see the kid will sleep.
Okay, so a child who is not sleeping could come from the fact that the mom is stressed? Is that what you're saying?
Of course, because the kids are kind of mirror. You know, when I have kids with problem, I say, okay, couple, mom, dad, coming. As soon as you deal with the problem of the parents, there is no more.
I know, that's the reason why in Tomatis therapy we take the parents as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because, you know, because they are linked to their parents. Energetically, they are linked. So they are the sponge of the emotion of their parents.
Absolutely, they are the emanation of the two parents. Yes, definitely.
Exactly, and quite often the parents, they somatize, for the parents.
Yeah, they express the issues of the parents. Yeah, they are the expression.
So that's why we always recommend to tap on you before tapping on your child. But then you're using I forgot the word, doudou. Like a teddy bear or something like that.
Yeah, soft toy or the
exactly.
Yeah.
And you learn to your child when he's like he wake up during the night, has a bad dream. He could tap on the doudou and. Finally, he's doing a projection. We call that doudou in French for the books.
Yeah, it's the soft toy, or
And he's talking like, the teddy bear. This is totally psychology. Huh? The teddy bear is a projection of his own fear. So he will say, "Oh, even if I have a lot of fear, like he's imagining, the teddy bear. You know what I mean? He's switching.
Yeah.
And just tapping on the
teddy bear,
and not on himself. Gone.
It's okay. So it's releasing the energy or the tight energy. Yeah, okay. So
because EFT. When you mention there is different EFT or not, but even Gary Craig, it doesn't use any more tapping. It just use the intention.
Yeah.
Because at one point, but at this point of time, you need. Firstly, to use the other tapping, but it's the way that we know intention is really important.
Absolutely.
And we know that we're creating the reality by our thoughts.
Absolutely, that's what we hear in every modalities that we can study or be part of. So, thank you so much for sharing all this information, Anne. Where do people can find you if they want to have more information?
So I have a website which is www.annesiret, so ANNESIRET.com.
That's excellent. Thank you so much.
And the others are in French, so I will not tell you. This one is bilingual, so you have it in French and in English.
Fantastic. That's very good to know. Thank you again for your time.
Yeah,
Anne.
It was a real pleasure, and I'm always happy to help people like you, Françoise, who want the well-being of children. And don't forget, we always have everyone has an inner child in his body.
All right.
Makes sense?
Thank you again. And this is once again Françoise Nikolov, your guide to wellness and better life. Talk to you soon.